So welcome. Sorry if you tuned into the other bit. We pretend that didn't happen. Joy of technical issues and stuff. So yeah, going to be looking at doing, as the title suggests, looking a little bit at some Fire Emblem kind of transcription. Soundtrack I am obsessed with. If you never played the game series, it's brilliant. Specifically looking at Three Houses. This will have been done already, but it's a really good way of... Sorry, just shift that off the screen. It's a really good way of experiencing the orchestral world of, like, well, how do you even get started with learning about orchestral pieces? I will just jump straight into this, because the time I've already made some progress on this, but I wanted to kind of do a little bit more and just document the process. I've already loaded up a template. All right, so I've got a composing template. It's an articulation one, which is basically, I have this instrument here. I've made loads of versions of it that are quick fire, ready to go. So you can see here's 51.1 gig being used for this group of instruments here of RAM, quite a lot. And yeah, if I now, hopefully if I unmute it, that plays. I've got a staccato version of the same instrument, which if I was to do that, I'm trying to not use hotkeys so you can see what I'm doing. That's a short version. You can use key switches, so whilst you're playing, you can press a button and then it does something fancy. I'm not doing any of that because, yeah, it confuses people. There's a random flute playing. I'd love to know why that's playing. Hopefully it's, there you go. So yeah, that's where we started. And then I've imported this lovely track. It's called Apex of the World. It's for Fire Emblem. This specific thing is an arrangement for Three Hopes rather than Three Houses. There's about 4 or 5 different versions of this track, but I'm just going to transpose it, which I've done already. And yeah, you can have a listen. And I'll talk to you about what's going on within this. Let me check the volumes. Love this track. Before we get too stuck into the rest of this, hopefully the audio is okay on that. But yeah, wonderful piece of music. There's another version, which I will show you in a moment, but that is the Embers version. A little bit of interesting trivia is the way the Fire Emblem soundtrack's composed, at least for Three Houses. They have 2 tracks that run alongside each other. In the base game, there's a rain, and in the other versions, there's a thunder. So one's like a backing, and then the other one's like the combat version, essentially. And they both play alongside each other, and then fade in and out depending on whether you're in the menu, or whether you're, like, you know, on the field, or if you zoomed in, zoomed out. Lots of different triggers for it. So this particular one, I've picked this as a start, because this has got the most audible, like, instrument articulations. I will also drop in then my favourite version, which has some lovely drum kits, electric guitars, basses, lots more in addition to this. So give me one moment whilst I just do that. I will just flick my screen off for a moment. And then, yeah, we'll kind of do a little bit of an analysis and go into the main melodic bit. Most of what I do by ear. When I can't do it by ear, I'll import it into Cubase, my DAW, and I'll then analyze it note by note, line by line. And eventually, after a little bit of work, you start then understanding how it all fits together. And it's a lot simpler than you think. So just give me 1 second. And And what we'll try and do then is sync the combat version of the track with the like menu version, if you wish, and then show you kind of how they slot together. Now, one really important thing, I have had to transpose it because I'm just, terrified of copyright and such, but this is all educational, so, I'm really not too concerned about that. Okay, so that was the A version, all right. Or, well, say the A version, the menu version. Here is then the heavy version. Fantastic how they've done the arrangement on this, and I'll show you how to do something similar. So here's the other version then. A lot more energy, right? Compared to that. Same arrangement, yeah, but you've got this lovely, wonderful layering of different elements that make one stand out more from the other. And the way they're interlaced. In the base game, they're two completely different arrangements, so they kind of slot in. So like this track A will be playing like one thing, and then track B will be playing something completely different. So when they then come out of the menu, they both play together. Where this is slightly different approach, but yeah, it sounds great. I'll shut up now and let you just listen to the rest of that. Other version. Yeah, I'm obsessed with it. I just love it. Let's break down then how the core structure of it. I'm going to ignore the intro just for the time being, because this build-up section tells us a lot about how the harmony's built. Sounds complicated. I've used the orchestral, like non-heavy, like guitars and stuff, just to make it a bit simpler. But if it's not transposed, it would help if I had the keyboard going. Essentially, it's just A minor going down, and a little bit of contrary motion. So appreciate the angle on this isn't great. Let's see if we can get something slightly better without having this in the way. I do plan on having a top-down cam eventually, but yeah, a little bit awkward at the moment. So it's just an A minor. I tell you what, let's see if Chord Watch will work. Hoping this will help. Give me 1 second. And what I'm going to do is just make a MIDI channel very quick. Right, fingers crossed. Aha. Let's get this overlaid as well. Gonna bring back the Just going to duplicate this. Sorry, it's a little bit messy, but I feel like this is going to be beneficial. And I'll look at doing something with the camera moving forward. So I'm going to bring the screen capture in somewhere, wherever it's gone. There we are. Right, and then I'll try and... Do we see this over there? Appreciate it's a little bit janky looking, but... So, here's the chords. You can see that. I know it's a little bit jank, but just bear with, it's a jank session today. So, it's pretty much just A minor. It's in B flat minor because it's transposed due to... I will undo that. There you go. And it just moves down on the bass. So into... But instead of the right hand coming down with it, it goes back up. And then you get this lovely 7th chord. Then the bass moves. It's got then a couple of extensions, so on the thumb there. Instead of that just being a basic A minor, we kind of thicken it up. So it's then got a 9 in it. And it just gets more quality. So, knowing that's the structure, I'm not going to pretend that I'm a music theory expert, because I absolutely am not. But most of the song is built around that exact same like harmony. You know, even the most complex pieces of music have some type of chord structure that underpins them. It's just instead of playing 3 notes like that, you may have a violin or something playing an A, you might have a brass playing a C, and you might have some woodwind playing then the E. And that's kind of really the fundamental basics of orchestration. So knowing that, I spent quite a bit of time. I'll go back full screen. Oops, wrong one. I spent quite a bit of time trying to understand that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play what took me about an hour of transcription so far. Oops, I'll mute all this stuff. Sorry, just hit pause too early there. So, no kind of studio magic there. It's the beauty of it being live. That's straight out of the door. No faffing, no fuss. I've just got some really good quality plugins that kind of do the work. So let's delve in. How do you get to that point of understanding what's going on? So I literally have just sat and heard this here. Obviously I've transposed that because, yeah. So main thing that's happening there is there's loads of string stuff underneath doing a lovely like staccato-y, ostinato-y bit, right? Which is fundamentally, I'm just going to grab a couple of violins here. might be easier. I'm kind of sprawled all over the place with keyboards. Let's try and get... I'm just going to play a few, just to make it a bit easier. Help if you could see what I'm doing. It's just... But if you play them all together, let's do it again. And that is literally this here. So we've got that A minor. Well, it's not quite an A minor, but it's an A minor with some extra bits in it. And as you can see, when I do like transcription and composing and stuff, well, not composing, sequencing, sorry, I will very much try and avoid, where possible, just drawing notes in. I know it's an A minor, so I could just sit here and go, right, okay, let's quantize it, and it's going to be then, make sure it's, actually quantizing and snapping to grid. There we go. So I just go with a bass note down here, and then the fifth, which is all it does. That's literally all it is. But with actual like playing, you don't play every single note the same. And so I try, and even if I'm a million miles away on the timing, the velocity data is incredibly hard to get right. I'm not saying my playing here is perfect. It's all over the place, right? But for someone who's like, if you're trying to program a realistic performance, the notes are actually the easiest thing to kind of sequence in from like a writing perspective. But playing, getting the velocity and the human sound, what makes it human? Well, you don't play the note at exactly the same velocity. So sometimes it's actually worth spending longer trying to play it, even if it's completely load of guff. But it means then when you come to do like, you'll select all of this then and do a bit of a quantize on it, and make sure it all lines up. But what you don't then need to do is spend hours trying to program. In this section here, this one bar 26, there's 6 sets of 5 notes, right? That's 30 notes I've got to individually program velocity for. Absolutely not. Just play it in, like once. Yeah, I might have to quantize. Let's just, for argument's sake, just shimmy them off the grid. Let's pretend I've just played that in. What's easier is just pressing quantize and that, shifting them all. You see that? Yeah. Versus for every single note having to do the velocity. So something really handy there. Let me just check something very quickly. Only time. Okay, so yeah, that's for you YouTube VOD watchers. I may chop that out, but yeah, it's something to kind of... It's painful having to learn and play a song, but actually, if you kind of internalize it and then get to play it, it sounds more realistic. So then we come on to the string section, as in the harmony bit. That's this. And all that is before, when I was playing those chords. Hopefully you get to see that now. Such a beautiful progression. Now, if you're getting into the proper realm of orchestral stuff, you'll have some type of, you hopefully can just see this, yeah, is like some type of expression controller. Hear that? It's getting more expressive. That's not doing anything. You get to add that extra layer of like expressiveness that's not just controlled through velocity. So yeah, if you see people using these, this is the Ghost Note Audio one. I've not done a review on this, but I might do at some point. I feel like 1,000,001 people have already reviewed it. But yeah, it gives you that layer of realism. I try and demonstrate it better with the melody line. Right, so I can start quite quiet. So I've got the left one's controlling the vibrato, the middle one is controlling the, I think it's just volume, and the right one controls the actual expression. So all three together. I mean, listen to this. I'm not going to touch these, but the vibrato. Yeah, so that's one. Oh, sorry. Very different. I'm just really butchering that just for the sake of demonstrating it, but you don't have to have a controller. You know, you've got mod wheels, you've got expression pedals, there's loads of different ways of doing it, but if you ever see people using these things, it's because they're very, very handy for that reason, right? So, yeah, the strings are just that, really. And then the melody, well, I've just played the melody. It's literally just an A minor. And then the bit after, let's go to the, sorry, I was on the, not the best plugin for that. The bit after. And then it does this lovely, like, you know, high tinkling piano bit. So, yeah, that's fundamentally what makes that song work. But where does the orchestration come in? If anyone's new and going, what on earth is orchestration? Well, you're just taking all of these notes and imagine you had a room full of 12 people all wanting to play part of that piece. You're basically just giving them all a slice of the cake. Really silly analogy, but if you're not super into like orchestra or like arranging and orchestration, it's pretty much all you're doing is you're going, right, okay, you're playing a bass. Well, you're not going to make a bass play a really high pitched note like that, are you? It's not really what a bass is supposed to do, you know. So like, and you just give them the bits of the cake. I don't know why I'm using a cake analogy, but I'm going to roll with it. You're just giving the cake to, or the best bits of the cake to the players that basically want it, and it fits what they want. So, you know, piccolos work at certain ranges, sorry. You go quite high. You can't play a piccolo down here. You can hear a bit of a piano creeping in there. But a piccolo can play here. But is it its best range? And it's really about understanding then, like, what's each range of each instrument and where does it fit best? You know, you're not gonna, as you say, electric guitars. Fun story. I'm sorry to waffle, but there's a reason why most of the best mix engineers classically are from rock and roll, and it's because the two hardest instruments to work with, and this is no disrespect to anyone who's worked in orchestral setting, because the challenges that come from orchestral mixing are unique, but from a sound engineering perspective, again, not going to pretend to be a full-fledged sound engineer, but everything is about your core, transients, resonance, your impulse response. What's the source sound like? If something's quite limited in range, it's normally easier to work with because the frequency response, like the actual sounds it emits and makes, if it's quite limited, you can get really quite masterful and skillful with working with like bottom end stuff, right? So let's say it's a bass drum or a bass. There's certain things, so like with a kick drum, you've got this transient poof, and then you'll have a top end like click of the actual pedal hitting the skin, right? That's really most of where the quality of the sound lies. Now, with something like a guitar or a voice, it can be anything. I mean, we can have 100 people sat in a room and every single one have a completely different voice. And so most of like the best mixing engineers in the world, historically, came from these like pop rock environments, because what's the hardest instrument to master in terms of mix-wise? It's vocals and voice. Sorry, not voice, guitars. Voices, vocals. So doesn't mean that, you know, certain other things like synths can be very hard to work with as well, because, I mean, I've got a synth here that can go from, you know, brown note level to absolutely ear-piercing, like, screeching sounds, you know, but synthesis is its own thing. So, yeah, so something to kind of bear in mind, you know, like, so when you're working with, like, orchestral instruments or just sample libraries in general, they're built around the strengths of the instruments normally. So, you know, cellos are really historically versatile. You can go from like, I think C1 up to about C4 on a cello. You're pushing it at those upper ranges. It kind of thrives in a certain, like, more of the middle. But it can do it. Likewise, you know, a bass trying to play some really high stuff. You can do it, but it's not going to sound in its prime. And yeah, to kind of get back on track, orchestration is about really playing about with, you've got those 12 people in that room who all want to play that piece of music and have a slice of that cake, but actually certain frequency ranges only sit with certain instruments. If you kind of understand that, bass, well, what's in the, so this is the symphony, BBC's symphony bit. Well, basses, look at the range on that. It can play up here, or it can play down here. That note that's all the way up there and it's lonesome doesn't sound really that great. Sounds much better down there, doesn't it? So yeah, I've talked enough about that, but it gives you the idea. So as we sit and listen then to this, there are some parts in this that I've not captured. So what I'm going to do is have another listen. Okay, let's listen to my version. Oops, not from there. So we're going to go from here to the different key. Sorry, I could transpose it. I will do that, just because otherwise it's going to annoy everyone, including myself. Hide all that. Sorry, a bit of organisation. Don't want to accidentally transpose the wrong thing. All these. Right. Let's transpose that. Don't know why it doesn't want to work. Oh, it's a bit of a faff there, isn't it? But it's alright. This is all for educational purposes. Right, transpose it up one step. Should sound a bit more. I've missed something. It's all hidden within here. Do as I say. I can't even think how the saying goes. Yeah, do as I say, not as I do. Something like that. Oh, God. Right, you know what? We'll just play it as it was. Do a bit of mixing while I'm at it. Now, whilst on the topic of mixing, just check the time. How am I going to mix this? I've got all these layers, and don't get me wrong, I've very lazily put these together just for the sake of getting something in. But am I going to sit and mix every single one of these instruments individually? The way to do it, you submix them. I've put them in a short group here. So I've just soloed that short group and now they're all together. Lots going on there. Okay, what I should have done there, sorry, is looped it. Rookie error there. There we are. And I'm just hoping to hear each of the elements. And then the loud elements, rather than boosting everything, you will have noticed I've boosted things, but what I can do is link all these together, bring them down together, and then that's just given me some more headroom. Okay, if I'm happy with that rough balance, I don't ever touch them faders again. Unless I've got an issue with that string mix. What I can then do is against the entire mix, I've got these subgroups here. So I've got my short groups, I've got my string melody groups. They then go into a string group as like a string master stem group. So I can listen to that now. Just boost it there now. So rather than try and like get lost in the mix of it, I just do a quick balance. I might go back in and tweak some stuff if I'm not getting enough like energy and stuff out of it, but let's play that now. Could put a compressor on there, which I might. Okay, so we're just comparing strings against each other. The melody's a little bit loud on one of those instruments, so that's going to need me to dive into the actual melody group. Let's not focus too much on that. Go back in, full mix now. Dodgy bass playing there at the end, but yeah. So you listen and you adapt, because whilst you're kind of transcribing by ear, you're kind of having to do a little bit of mixing, a little bit of composing. Not necessarily composing, but you're listening attentively and doing all the music bits. But the focus is just about getting the feel of it right. And, if you've got a template beforehand where you've got everything pre-mixed, it helps massively. If these are all completely bare, like nude instruments, which I'm having to then mix fully on top of, then yeah. What I would probably suggest is you don't get too focused on the mix element of it. You just balance it and make sure it sounds there or thereabouts. And then you focus on just getting the stuff in, because there's no point mixing it perfectly when you've only got, 8 out of 40 instruments. If it's like a big orchestral thing, you're never going to get the mix perfect whilst you're still dotting notes in, because there's a woodwind section there. If you listen on the initial track, let's just tidy that up there. Do you hear that? Let's go full right so you hear it. Now, if you're struggling to hear things, what you can do is, I quite like using multi-band compressors that have bypassing on bands. And you can solo like particular frequency ranges. It's not a super trick, it's just general awareness. So not much happening up there, down there. Let's look at 10K. I'd probably, if you're going to do that, make sure you're not compressing the absolute living thing out of it. That's really good. So yeah, just expanded the band slightly. I've got a really nice clear sound of all the brass and woodwind there. So yeah, it's really, really helpful to do that. So just going to go for a very quick break, and I'll be back in then 2 minutes, and then I'm going to try and add some of those woodwind lines and show you what that looks like. So yeah, back in just a moment. Hello, sorry about that. Right, so the woodwind part is what I really want to focus in on here. So I'm going to tidy this up, get my woodwind bits ready. Now I've done it by articulation, not key switch. So if you was on a key switching thing, you'd have to sit and listen to it, wouldn't you? And go, okay, when's it changing? Go from here. So there's either a flute or a piccolo bundled in together there. So it's all just following A minor. It's following the same melody, but there's a little bit of kind of call and response going on. So call and response is this idea that piccolo might play. Yeah. The flute might play. But you might have, like, one might be left. Big volume difference in that. I'll mix that in a sec. Now the other one will do like a little answer. Makes music, like orchestral music, just really, really beautiful. It's what John Williams is like masterful at. Very quiet, that one, compared to better. Okay, so let's listen again. Could play that in. Try again. Now, listen closely. Is it playing the melody line too? It could be. Let's just do it. I'm sure it'll sound really lovely. Oh, it's in a different key. Let me transpose that. I'm sorry to be lazy, but I've not got much time left, so I'm just going to go for it, rather than have to relearn the track. I can't remember what that actual sequence was. That's that bit. Sorry, it would help if you could actually see my keyboard, wouldn't it? Okay, so that's the fundamental melody there. Let's do another run of that. I'll try and do first take. Oops, would help if I could hear the actual music. Mainly hearing lots of string action there rather than woodwind. Now, to compare, remember there's the action version of the track. Very different. I love that version so much. I can play that on guitar, which was we'll see. I think the plan is once I've done this, I'll overlay guitars on it, do a video, Bob's your uncle. Cool, so here's that final piece then. If it plays, it'd be nice if it did. Cool. The way woodwind sections are normally is they'll all play similar notes, but they'll either play like thirds, fifths, octaves, just because they're easy to work with when they're like, you're basically playing chords within a section, and that's... So, oboe is going to come down an octave. We'll lower that octave again for a clarinet, specifically a bass clarinet. Cor anglais, let's... Piccolo could probably go higher, although it's going to be not doing a whole lot. Okay, and then we could layer then the cor anglais somewhere in the middle, just to give it that lift. Probably better in the middle. Let's try that. Do. Just all that bit then, but without the woodwind specifically. So I just beat my mic around. So let's have a listen with the rest of it. I'm going to have to transpose it down, mind you. So just because I'm doing this whole thing to avoid getting into copyright strikes. Now, obviously this is louder, so let me volume match it. Versus. It's pretty close. I'm not going to pretend it's actually like the original, because it's not. It never will be. But obviously some optimization in terms of quantizing. Like, there's no quantizing in any of that. So normally when you're recording with MIDI, you bring it forward, so you quantize it, and snap to grid would help. You'd bring it forward like that. You'll quantize it and hope that it sticks. So I'm going to do it note by note here, just because it's a little bit fiddly. Overlaps with legato patches. Let me give you a full screen. Overlaps with legato patches are good, normally. Now, if I quantize this section here, its closest points, bam, that's fine. The next bit, though, is going to overlay it. So remember, we're playing legato patch. You can only play one note at a time. It needs to go that way. And then just do a little bit of quantizing. And then this is where some people go, oh, bro, it's just easy to write it all in. It's really not. You know, like, I could be using way more hotkeys, and I'm just pressing Q, just for the avoidance of any, like, shadow magic. I'm just pressing Q. Q for quantize. You know, and then I'm going to be lazy on this lot. Change to an 1/8 quantize, because that all, besides this note here, yeah, looks mostly right. Let's listen to that then. You just need to be another stab at the end of that. Ba-ba-bum, like that. Off it goes, right? So, bit of mixing needed on that bit. And it's one tiny bit, but whilst I've not actually really sat and mixed that. So I'm not going to mix against the entire piece. I'm just going to mix those sections. Now, if you like, you might not actually have great hearing. My ears are very decent, but they might not always be. Use your digital meters, like, you know, they're handy. They're not always 100% accurate, so your ears are obviously your first point of call, but if you're really not sure, use some meters if you've got them built in on your mixer like this. Obviously, loop it. Sorry, I keep doing this. You loop it. Oh man, it's such a great track. I love it very much. Let's see if we can get that other little bit in, which was just before it here. Yep, worth saying, sorry. There's going to be some person that watches this and goes, why on earth are you starting from the middle? It's just the way I happened to learn the track by ear. I figured out the middle section. So for me, being neurodivergent, it's hard sometimes to just sit and focus on like from start to finish. So the way of me kind of managing my own work sometimes is I learn like a big chunk of it, either by ear. So, you know, me learning that main bit on piano, got that in, and then I kind of work either backwards or forwards. Because sometimes you can start with a track and go, whoa, this is overwhelming. In this case, it's got a little bit of a change of tonality. And yeah, it's very big and bold, and you're like, whoa, where do we even begin with this? So I did it the other way around, and then I will work backwards, fill in some gaps if I recognise any patterns. And yeah, I'm not going to sit and tell people what the right or wrong way is, because quite frankly, there is no right or wrong way. As long as you can do what you need to do, and it sounds good, you know. Different story in a professional setting when you've got a clock ticking in every single thing you do, right? I need this piece composing or transcribing or whatever. Very different story, but yeah. I think if you're at that level, then why on earth are you sat listening to me? Is what I'd be saying. Go and teach me some things. So, here we go. Let's go back a bit, because I think I'm missing a woodwind bit here. Bar 44, halfway through, there's a little kind of just creep in. Yeah, so I actually don't have a clue what that line is. It's not a motif or a riff or a melody or whatever you want to call that, the little ostinato-y thing. It's not anywhere in that piece of music so far. So I'm going to actually have to sit and figure that out now. Bear in mind, I'm composing by articulation. So is it a short piece? Is it a long piece? Well, let's just listen again. It's very short, but it's also got like these little legato bits in. So I think either could work, and just for the sake of writing, I'm just going to use a legato thing for now. Let's listen again. Kind of up there somewhere. It's really high. And if you get completely stuck, guess what you can do? You know for certain, in this case, the track's in A minor. Obviously it's transposed, so it's just on the grid there. You could really, if you wanted to, just go through the notes logically. Up there somewhere. Gonna be a tricky one, that, even for me. It's because it's not really loud. It's so subtle. It's like a secondary little riff. It's lovely. It's a little run. What's not helping is a different key. Shock. Transpose it down. Let's see. That won't be helping, will it? Let's be honest. So, let's try again. Playing that a bit too low. Oops. I'll fall into bits, guys. I'm sorry. Key editor. There you go. Let's try again. Sounds up there. Yeah, it's like... It's kind of like that, but it's not. But it's got this really breathy, like harsh attack that comes with it. And it's also got, just to make it even more complicated, Christ, it's also got like a sub-layer that then is playing a little bit of a kind of small chord with it. Yeah, it's doing something like that, so... Oh, it's glued it onto... That's not what I wanted. I'm going to try it on the staccato-y one instead. That's better, isn't it? Oops. Let's try syncing that. And for the amount this adds to the piece, it's probably not worth the effort, but now, one really important thing with staccato sections on instruments normally, they're normally velocity controlled. So really heavy breath bit on some of those notes. Like that, yeah? See how harsh that sounds? And it loses that attack. So yeah, I will carry on playing about with that because I'm mindful of time. But yeah, some of those bits, it takes, if you're not super musically minded, and I'm not going to pretend that I am, because I'm basically proof that if I can do this, most people can. It just takes time and effort, and I've not been really sat listening to certain instrument types very well, specifically woodwind. Strings, I can nail a string line in a couple of minutes normally, but woodwind, because of the way they are, is a very delicate sounding and breathe in and out, a bit like how brass does. It's got very particular qualities at certain velocities, so I can probably get the notes, but then getting the particular like blowy articulation that I need, it's going to take a little bit of time. And what the secret to that is not just using the same ones like staccato. You know, it might be a little bit more of a marcato. Stop playing, of course. Great. Marcato normally comes in with a little bit of a quicker attack and then slowly peters off. But yeah, I'll play about with some of these falls. I have no idea what that's going to be. A rip. It's actually a multi-tongue sound. Yeah, so get the idea. What I will show, though, as a final thing, is I'm going to turn my keyboard off for a sec. Just so I can be a little bit closer to my desk. That's my mouse hitting the floor. Cancel that. We're not closing it just yet. Let's see if we can get close to my my system. Watch this. This is really great. I say really great. I can't even move. This chair is so heavy. And I've got like a little roller mat thing. Oh my goodness. I'm just going to have to shift it out of the way. There we are. And what you can hopefully see. There we are. There we go. So, I could, theoretically, don't know why I'm leaning so far over. What I can do is hook all these together. I'll have to turn the ducker off, which is a plugin that stops it. So if I'm playing something quite loud, it will dip. You hear that? That's what a ducker does. So if I turn that off, I can talk and it's not getting ducked under. See? Very interesting. He says in the least interesting voice ever. So I'm going to put all them together with the strings. You would never do this, by the way, because you're just asking for your system to have a seizure, but make sure all those are going into the wave 2. And yeah, I'm just going to do a little bit of a and it does something like that. It sounds great, doesn't it? And yeah, I love that stuff. I really do. To then do the melody line, it is this. Hopefully it doesn't cut out. Missed a note. Sounds great, doesn't it? And yeah, that's from, it sounds silly, but it's took me a while to get my sound the way it is. So don't be disheartened if you're like, oh my God, my thing sounds nothing like that. It is, honestly, sorry to go, let's go full screen there. It has took me a phenomenal, an extraordinary amount of time to get to where I am, where I've, one, having such plugins, but I've never had, I used to just use like the same, this used to be my main string library, where I've got here. Play down here, it's a bit nicer. And it sounds good and it works, but what I end up having to do is, let's just flick back into that very quickly, it's just do a little bit more mixing on it. You know, like, I might take a bit more mid out of that. Much prefer that sound, personally. You know, like, some instruments I need to kind of boost a bit there. You know, it's really kind of knowing what the limitations of your own software and plugins and stuff are. Not getting too stuck in, like, the rat race of having the best plugins. Because guess what? Anyone who's a professional composer will be able to pick out a range of plugins. BBC's unique in the fact that it does just sound very much like a real orchestra, but what you hear instead of the sound of the real orchestra is you hear the room sound. The room sound is iconic. So yeah, this whole layers of, and I implore whoever watches the VOD, if you do, don't get stuck in it. It really doesn't matter that much. Just make music. Transcribe stuff, play about, have fun. You can worry about how good stuff sounds like later, but yeah, it's, people get really hung up on that, including myself, and having been there and now done it, I think, yeah, just focus on the fun bit and the magic that is, you know, recording and making music. So that being said, I will leave it there because I will unfortunately have to go. But yeah, thanks for watching. Whoever watches the VODs, yeah, just leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the vid. And yeah, that's it really. I shan't waffle anymore. Thanks for watching. See you later.